Okay, so I see that MetaGoblin has made a video going over all of the big Phase 3 changes coming out in just like a week and a half. I want to see what he has got to say about all of this. Let's go.
So Blizzard have released a very big video for their Phase 3 preview, and I'm going to summarize that
Yeah, it was
in
almost
a
a
lot
half
less
hour
time and cover all the things that you probably missed. Pretty
Okay.
much everything that I predicted in my previous video has in fact come correct. The new raid is going to be Sunken Temple, and it will be an 8-boss raid that is 20 man. As usual, there will be totally new items, some actual new item sets very similar to Nomagon, new epics. The quest rewards are going to be...
I said this yesterday, but I think, I'll say it again, I think so many of these Sunken Temple bosses are going to lend so well to becoming raid bosses. It's almost like Sunken Temple in 2004 was designed to be a raid, and then it just kind of was... It never ended up becoming a raid, then it was a 5-man dungeon instead, but it's going to be such a good raid.
Be up-leveled not
It's
just
gonna be
for
such a
the
great
instance
raid.
like the level 50 class quests, but also for the other dungeons that are around about that level. The most interesting thing that they covered is how there's actually going to be a new boss called the Festering Rot Slime that's actually going to patrol the rings around, which is probably going to be quite funny in certain raid groups because it's probably going to come up behind people. And for Jamal the Priest boss, they've basically indicated that there's going to be alternating mechanics each time that you go to that fight, so it's going to...
That's going to be... I like the idea of alternating mechanics. I like that a lot. Also, though, so Blizzard has said that this is going to be an 8th boss raid. Guess what? This boss here counts for 2 bosses. So it's like it's more like a 7 boss raid because this boss here technically is 2 bosses, and that's how they're counting it, okay? So it's like 2 bosses, but it's the same encounter. All right.
Going to be a little bit different every time you go to that fight. They confirmed that Arankius is going to be in the raid, but they didn't really confirm 100% whether he is going to be the last boss. We may see a different boss instead.
I would guess he is.
We're also adding a weird
That's
gun
true, though.
axe,
He's right.
which is, I imagine, fairly similar to the Decapitator from Karazhan. It will have a ranged effect, even though it is a melee weapon. By the way, guys, if you're looking to pass better in Nomagon, I've made a very detailed boss-to-boss guide. Subscribers can get a preview of that video right now if you just subscribe.
So we only have like 3 more lockouts of Nomer until we're going. Although, similar to Black Fathom Deep's, Nomer is now going to be a level up raid. So just like how on day 1 of Phase 2, what's the first thing you should do is go do 1 BFD run with your guild. It's probably going to be the same. So it's day 1 Phase 3. What's one of the first things you do is go do Nomer. Do a quick 45-minute long Nomer run. As quickly as you can at least, and maybe you get like 1 full level worth of XP. And keep in mind, we're going to have a 50% XP bonus all the way from 40 to 50. So it's going to be worth a lot, I would hope.
Subscribe to the channel, check out my channel trailer, and if you want to get the full guide, you have to become a member of the channel.
Okay.
The tier tokens will be a little bit different this time round. There's going to be multiple different tier tokens for certain class groups. They have reworked Dragon's Call to make it more powerful. It does look more like a tank weapon, but I reckon it's probably still going to be quite viable for DPS. It depends how often it actually drops and how much it actually sims on DPS.
You know what I like? In regular vanilla WoW, there's a lot of epic items that just kind of suck. They're epic, but they just suck. And so Dragon's Call is like kind of one of those items. I like that now maybe some of these like iconic legendary epic items, now they're going to be worth wearing, right? Now they're going to actually be worth equipping. I like that.
Obviously the Drake that does get summoned, and it does actually have a new glow effect. And as usual, there are some gimmick items. There's this sacrificial dagger that you can use, and it basically means there's going to be a 50-50 chance whoever you use it with that they die or you die
or you don't.
There's also this one that transforms you into a critter, and apparently there's going to be way more, and these are the most boring and the most interesting ones have yet to be revealed. They also confirmed, like the previous phase, they are going to rework the dungeon loot, very likely adding spell power here and there to certain items that didn't previously have it. Now there's some class runes. What's very funny about all the class runes is Blizzard always say, oh, don't look at the data mined info because they're not going to be correct, take it with a pinch of salt. And then they proceeded to reveal that every rune that has been data mined has actually been revealed. So all of these...
Yeah, like what seems to be the case is that First off, they said, okay, guys, don't take data mining seriously in Season of Discovery because we're going to be including secret we're going to be including falsehoods in the data mine servers, so that like you don't really know what's real and what's not. But as it turned out, pretty much everything has ended up being real, or it will be real in a later phase. So like a lot of the stuff that like we data mined in phase 2 that we didn't get in phase 2 ended up being stuff that we're going to be getting in phase 3 now, and we have confirmation of that. So it's like actually, well, kind of all of it was real.
Runes that we're going to see,
pretty much,
we already know they were going to be put into the game because they have been data mined. Druid get Gore, which allows them to reset the cooldown on certain abilities when they use Lacerate or Swipe or Maul, and they also get improved Bark Skin. This means it can be cast on friends and it no longer penalizes your melee or spell casting speed. Hunters have Lock and Load. Every time your trap is triggered, your next shot ability within 20 seconds costs no mana and it does not incur a cooldown. Focus Fire allows pets to get frenzy stacks, and then those frenzy stacks can be absorbed onto the player to speed up his ranged attack speed. It's going to be interesting to see how that interacts.
I really, really hope for the sake of the hunters that Ranged Hunter is like viable again, because Ranged Hunter has just sucked so much in PvE. In terms of like parsing and raid DPS performance, Ranged Hunter has sucked. And that feels really bad, because Ranged Hunter is like, that's the iconic way to play Hunter for the last 20 years. And it's just been non-viable for 2 months. That sucks.
With the Beast Mastery talent Frenzy. Mages get Deep Freeze and the new Balefire Bolt. No surprises here. This has been data mined. This is the new ability that if you cast it too much, you reduce your spirit, and then when you have zero spirit,
is looking good. Mages
you
are
end
looking
up
good.
dying. Obviously, the more you cast it, the more damage you deal. Bit of a weird, funky ability, that one. Pretty cool, though. Paladins get improved Sanctuary and Wrath, again to nobody's surprise. But Wrath is a little bit different. Now your Consecration ticks actually can crit, and also the damage from, Exorcism, Holy Shock, Holy Wrath, and everything can gain crit chance equal.
I feel like I'm looking at some of the gear that's being released for Paladins going into Phase 3, some of the trinkets, some of the set bonuses. I think Blizzard wants Shockedin to be a thing. I think they are leaning into Shockedin.
To your melee crit chance. I think Blizzard are really trying to push this kind of hybrid Ret and Shockedin Paladin, especially as they did hint that earlier, which we'll talk about later. Priest get Pain and Suffering. Basically just means that your Mind Flayer will keep your Shadow Word Pain at its maximum duration. And we also get Surge of Light. Whenever you get a crit, your next Flash Heal or Smite, cast within 15 seconds, will be instant. This is a...
There was a data mine rune that said that Shadow Priest dots are now going to be able to crit as well. I hope for their case that is true.
Wrath Lich King classic talents that people are very familiar with. Rogues are getting Honor Amongst Thieves. Basically, whenever party members crit, they also gain a combo point. Now, this is a rune here that wasn't data mined. It's called Cut to the Chase. Basically, your Eviscerate or Envenom ability will refresh the duration of Slice and Dice or your Blade Dance. There's also a new ability that wasn't data mined called Mental Dexterity for the Shaman, and I'm having a difficulty understanding this one, to be honest. I don't know whether it's going to be ridiculously overpowered or not. So dealing damage with your melee weapons increases your attack power by 100% of your intellect, and your spell damage and healing by 30% of your total attack power, and this lasts for 1 minute. I don't know what kind of cooldown this is going to have, but it literally apparently lasts 1 minute.
Did shamans need this? Did shamans really need this? They're already so good. Yes, they're already so damn good.
Apparently, the shaman needed to be buffed even more in this season of Discovery, though they are like the absolute god class so far. We're also going to get Riptide, and people affected by Riptide will get their chain heals buffed on them by 25%. I think it's finally time for the Affliction Warlock to shine, because now all dots are going to crit with the Pandemic rune.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, Warlock is looking good. Warlock is looking real good.
Oh, and they're also going to get Felguard. Imagine an Affliction Warlock with Felguard also. Or even a Destruction Warlock with Felguard. That is going to be utterly...
like, you're probably going to have to choose. Like, I would guess the Felguard rune is probably going to be on the same slot as like the Unstable Affliction rune or something like that. So you probably can't have both.
Mental. And we also hinted that there's another new demon in the game that we're going to be able to summon next phase. I don't know whether that's going to be like a temporary thing or a permanent pet.
Oh, does it? Oh, you know what? Hold up. Pandemic Cure is Helmet, but that's not Unstable Affliction. Felguard is Bracers. Maybe you could have Affliction Felguard rune.
Very
Maybe.
surprised if it is a
You might
permanent
be able
pet,
to.
because that would be really cool. Now,
Maybe.
Warrior, they get their 2 data mined runes, Taste of Blood and Sword on board.
Uh-huh.
We know these abilities from, Wrath of the Lich King Classic, but the real oddball here is we're actually getting Gladiator stance. So this will change the vibe of the Warrior totally in next phase, and I think it was honestly needed. Particularly in PvP, because basically when you're in this stance and you've got a sword and shield equipped, obviously any one-handed weapon, you can also use any ability that is restricted to a specific stance. Gladiator stance will just allow you to use everything all at once.
Warriors
A
are
fully
very happy
unlocked
about
warrior
this.
like this is just going to be an absolute beast in PvP, providing that damage buff is significant enough to make a one-handed weapon pack as much of a punch as a two-hander. That's actually a good segue to start talking about the new PvP changes. So I've been asking for this for a while. They are actually adding new PvP sets, so people who are playing PvP now will actually have something to work for in PvP. They can exclusively do PvP.
This is really good. Here's the thing, though. The whole vanilla WoW ranking system, the way that it's rolled out alongside the SOD phases, it sort of just doesn't matter, right? So how long is it going to take from rank 5 to 7? If you cap out your honor, can you go from 5 to 7 in 1 week? I think so. Just 1 week. And that's how it was in phase 1. 1 week of ranking. It's like you do 1 week of ranking every 2 months or every 2.5 months. It just might as well not even exist, really. It's just so non-impactful, right?
Content to progress in PvP. They
But I don't know, maybe people prefer that.
in order to get the best
Maybe so.
PvP gear. These are going to be big 6-piece sets as well with PvP bonuses. Also, they're introducing starter PvP sets, basically very similar to how the TBC factions had them. And there's going to be a new faction that provides that called the Emerald Warden faction. And it looks like the main World PvP event is still going to be Blood Moon next phase, because they're adding new rewards for level 50 for the Blood Moon event, and also providing new Massacre coins. So it's going to be a totally new currency. The old currency is retiring, and it will expire entirely 2 weeks after the launch. You will also be able to buy honor with the coin, so you can farm honor by doing the PvP event. And they've also introduced some special weapons.
So right now, one of the biggest ways to like prepare for phase 2, or to prepare for phase 3 rather, is to just go to STV, farm as much as you can in STV. Because you can use what you're farming now to help you rank up when phase 3 comes out, to go from rank 5 to 7.
Which are PvP themed. For instance, a throwing weapon for Warrior that will actually immobilize the target for 5 seconds. Now, the new world event, as far as I understand it, it isn't PvP focused, but that doesn't mean that PvP won't happen at this event. I think it very inevitably will, and I think it could be pretty chaotic, to be honest. It really depends. So the new event is Nightmare Incursions. Basically, have the Emerald Portals. They're going to be swarmed with loads of enemies that you're going to go and farm. I presume it's going to be very similar to kind of like the Legion Invasion event in the Legion pre-patch. Apparently there's going to be loads of repeatable level 25 to 50 content.
It's going to be weird. I'm not sure the right way to interact with these. If you're a random player running around the world leveling, the only way to ever do Nightmare Incursions is to go to one of 4 Nightmare portals. It's the one in Hinterlands, Feralis, Duskwood, and Ashenvale are where the 4 portals are. And you have to actually kind of go out of your way to get to them, and then you have to go into the portal, and then you're in this nightmare zone, and then you have stuff to do. And I feel like most leveling players are like probably not gonna do that. I don't know. Or maybe it's gonna be super worth it. And it's going to be so worth it that you actually do really want to do it. I don't know. I'm not sure how this is going to play out.
And it's going to provide reputation, loads of reputation rewards, and also experience points. The most interesting of this has to be the spell power proc ring, similar to the, AQ40 rings. And my prediction is it probably is going to be best in slot. And now for professions. So there's going to be a new profession quest chain, basically carrying on from the previous quest chains. They hinted that there's going to be new epic shoulder items, some engineering braces. I don't know what that's going to be, whether it's just going to be a fat epic item or it's going to have some kind of gimmick. I mean, that would be on point with engineering items.
So you can see kind of here in the bottom left, also right here, it says in Nightmare. So every single spec, every single class can create an epic item from a profession that there's like cloth stuff, there's mail, leather, plate, whatever for every single spec as well. And every single one of these crafted items you can make has a special nightmare bonus. Like, and it's a bonus that only is active inside of quote the nightmare. And so that could be the nightmare is obviously inside of the nightmare portals we just talked about a moment ago, but also the speculation now is inside the raid itself, the Sunken Temple raid, will there be certain bosses where you're inside the nightmare? Or is the entire raid inside the nightmare? Are there phases during certain boss fights where you go into the nightmare and then you come out of the nightmare? And so this gear has value not just in the nightmare portals outside of the raid, but also inside the raid maybe. We don't really know exactly.
There's also going to be a reusable alchemy flask finally. We also alluded to how recipe costs are very likely going to be, well, non-existent when it comes to raw gold. And that also goes for the previous profession recipes from previous raid tiers. Now, profession specializations are going to be available, and you can level your professions up to level 300. They also hinted that there's going to be a new quest to obtain something very similar to the mixology specialization, where if you craft certain potions, you will sometimes proc and get some extra potions.
Yeah.
Lastly, let's talk about some big system.
So the one profession specialization that they've talked about, it's the alchemy one he just mentioned here. You have a chance to proc more elixirs or flasks, and that's how they did it in TBC. That's obviously a non-player power reward for your profession specialization. It's going to help you make more money, but it's not necessarily increasing your DPS performance, for instance. And so I wonder, with the profession specialization system, are you gonna have to take a certain specialization if you want to be DPSing as much as you can? Or is it just going to be sort of like whimsical, optional, silly, maybe it's going to help you make more money, but it's not going to be necessary to be pumping as hard as you can? I don't know. Is it going to be player power or more economic power? I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Proc and get some extra potions. Lastly, let's talk about some big system updates and what they have hinted for level 60 endgame. So first of all, they have confirmed dual spec is going to be in the game. They did not reveal how much it's going to cost. They're just going to be this dwarf guy who is going to provide it. They make this like really big joke about not making it a big deal, and they should have left it out of the presentation. I honestly think that they actually should have done that. It would have been so much better if there was a really long like riddle and puzzle game where you had to discover how to unlock dual spec, and once it's unlocked.
That's a curious idea. Do you think they shouldn't even have announced dual spec? And we get into phase 3, and then you just like, it's like, oh, there it is. Oh, cool. Yeah, yo, there it is. That would have been funny.
Locked on your server. That would have been funny for everyone on the server. They really should have made it a server community event for everyone to try and go out and discover and reveal and unlock this. They confirmed that the previous world buffs, again, not going to be usable at level 50, and there is going to be a new world buff similar to the Zanza consumables, apparently. Also, there's a number of items in the game where you can actually get from level 40 to 49 pretty much instantaneously by just turning in the same quest over and over again, and you can prepare all of those items. Not allowed. They're confirming that that just won't work.
You know what they don't mention here? They do not mention waylaid supply crates. When Phase 2 came out, if you had stockpiled the supply crates, you were able to turn them in for XP. So here they say, no Marks of Honor turn-ins, no wastewater pouches, no troll necklaces. They do not specifically mention the waylaid supply boxes. So I don't know. I don't know if it's worth farming 1 million of them or not. I'm not sure. Also, student fodder. You get 8 of those. Every character gets 8 of those when you complete your sleeping bag quest. Are those going to be usable? 40 to 50? I don't know.
But yeah,
I actually hope not.
50% experience.
Will the sleeping bag itself, the 3% XP sleeping bag, is that going to work? I don't know.
Buff level 40 to 49. And the current double XP buff is going to stay in the game. Nomagon will also give experience points for each boss kill.
Yep.
Weirdly though, the raid is switching to a 1-week lockout for Sunken Temple rather than a 2-day lockout. I think a lot of people are probably going to be, well, not so happy about that. It's also going to be available day 1. That is something I'm very unhappy about. I was actually going to be...
I gotta say, Okay, I haven't really thought about this, but hear me out. I'm gonna have chat up so I can get your feedback as I think through this or talk through this. I think having a 1 week raid lockout actually makes playing alts more approachable because right now, for the last couple months, I've been raiding on 2 characters, which is raiding 4 times a week, and like it's just a lot. It's a lot, right? And so if you want people to be raiding on 2, 3, 4, 5 characters to keep themselves busy in SOD, I think having a 1 week lockout is actually better for that. It's better. It makes juggling multiple alts easier and more fun. I think it was a little bit much raiding 4 times a week on 2 characters. It felt like a lot.
Be in a world first race with my guild, but unfortunately I booked a holiday, and because the announcement has just come so quickly, like it's releasing in under a week, it's pretty much game over for that prospect. They have also confirmed that the raid itself will have bigger loot pools. Now, what about level 6?
I have probably the most unpopular take in the world here. I think the loot pools should have stayed the same size despite having 2 times more people in the raid. Because I know I'm going to get crucified here. I think loot scarcity and the drama that follows in accordance or as a result of loot scarcity is actually one of the most hilarious and memorable parts of raiding in Vanilla WoW is the loot scarcity. The reason why loot matters is because there's a limited amount of it. And I know people are gonna hear me say this and they're gonna disagree, but I don't know. That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
60 endgame, what do we know about
It
this?
makes it
Well,
funny.
there's actually a lot of good news. So first of all, the bad news. All endgame raids are going to have a weekly reset. So this includes Onyxia and Zul'Gurub for some reason. I don't understand why they're doing that, to be perfectly honest. Apparently, it's going to be too complicated for everyone to understand the different lockouts and how that's happening.
So every single person I've spoken to about Onyxia, AQ20, and ZG being bumped up to a 7-day lockout rather than a 3-day lockout is stoked about it. Chat, are you happy about ZG, Ani, AQ20 being 7-day lockout? Yes or no? Are you happy about that? And every single person around the world is happy. I'm happy too. I like that. I like it. Okay.
I mean, is it though? I mean, people just have Discord bots to do that for you now anyway, so I really don't understand why they've done that. At endgame, there's also going to be a method to unlock a system that gives you 2 weapon skill bonuses that you can choose. These will not stack with racials, but it basically means that you can pick whatever race you want. Well, more or less whatever race you want, and it's going to balance the factions and other racials to be much better. So this is a huge improvement to the game.
Yeah, so pretty much the era of the human is over, and it is a new gnomish dawn. The gnomes are rising up. The night elves, the female night elf warriors are rising up.
These new weapon skill bonuses that you can pick will also stack with certain items that provide weapon skill. Priests can also do the same. They can just totally swap out their racials and pick other priest racials. Honestly, at this point, I feel like they should just let people choose whatever racials they want. I know it's like very immersion breaking, but sometimes gameplay quality just has to come over that. Off-spec tier sets are confirmed. Weirdly,
this is good.
Hinted that they're actually going to have a Shockedin Paladin set. They've said that all endgame mode 60 loot is going to be totally revamped, so I can expect it all to be very, very different. This also includes endgame profession items, and they've also talked about how swapping your profession specialization.
They're adding off-spec tier sets for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Later once we're level 60 in SOD. Good.
It's going to be much easier. That's going to be it, guys. Please do me an absolute solid and check out the video that I've made on my second channel where I attempt to complete Oblivion as the adoring fan. I spend a good 50 odd hours editing that one, so I would really appreciate it. It will also be on the end screen of this video.
There it is.
Anyway, until my next video, ciao.
Great video, MetaGoblin. Nothing but upvotes. I'm going to say, listen, everything that I've heard about Phase 3 so far seems pretty good. I think everyone is generally happy. People are saying SOD is saved. SOD is so back. That's kind of what it feels like. You can kind of feel the SOD magic is in the air a little bit. We have, 8, 9, 10 days until Phase 3 hits us, and now it is time to go prepare for it. It's time to prep. So thank you for watching. As always, drop a like, drop a subscribe, drop a comment. Go find your way to MetaGoblin's video. There's going to be a link to his video in the description down below of my video, the one you just watched. And as always, thank you for watching, and stay safe.